Hi, Singapore. This is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You're jamming with the best in sports on 938 Live.
From 938 Live.
This is Formula One driver Fernando Alonso.
Hi, Singapore. I'm Jürgen Klinsmann.
Hi, I'm Martin Tyler.
This is Annika Sorensen.
Hi, Singapore. This is Johnny Wilson. You're locked on to the best in sports. Cheers.
You're listening to Singapore's longest running and only sports talk show on radio. A good Saturday to you and welcome to SportsZone on 938 Live. I'm Noah Tan and today we'll be previewing the upcoming season of the NBA, which officially kicks off this coming Tuesday morning. Will the San Antonio Spurs be able to retain the title? Are the Miami Heat doomed for a season of mediocrity without LeBron James? Can the Oklahoma City Thunder cope without last season's MVP Kevin Durant for the 2 months that he's out injured? Well, to give their opinions on these topics and more, I'm delighted to have in my studio 4 NBA fans. First up, we have Singapore Slinger star Carl Jeffers, who's a fan of the Golden State Warriors. He's here with his friend Ben Adams, a die-hard San Antonio Spurs supporter. We've got another Spurs fan here as well in Huan Song. And rounding up our guest today is sports physiotherapist Kelvin Goh, whose favourite team happens to be the Los Angeles Lakers. Welcome to the show, guys. But just before we start our season preview, just to let you know that we'll be giving away 2 copies of the latest NBA game, which is the NBA 2K15 video game for the PlayStation 4 console. Plus, we're also including 2 pairs of tickets for you to catch the Carlsberg live screening of Liverpool vs Chelsea on November 8th at the Club Asia Square. And you'll also win 2 pairs of VIP invites to catch our Singapore ex-internationals vs Liverpool FC legends on November 15th at the Jalan Besar Stadium. So 2 listeners are going to win all of those prizes in a short while via our phone-in contest. For now, though, let's get straight down to business as we begin our season preview for the NBA, and we start with the teams from the Western Conference, and let's start with the reigning champions, the San Antonio Spurs. We've got 2 Spurs fans here, so I'm sure there will be loads to discuss, but let's begin with you, Ben. Now the Spurs infamously capitulated to the Miami Heat in the last few seconds of the 2012-2013 championship final, so how important was it for them, especially psychologically, to have avenged their defeat to the same opponents in the final last season?
Yeah, look, I think it would be unrealistic to say it didn't have an impact on what they were doing, but if ever there was a team built to overcome that kind of disappointment, it would be the Spurs. You know, their team culture, the way they put together the coaching, the leadership, you know, what they built with Tim Duncan for the last 16 years and Pop for sort of 16, 18, it really sets them apart from the rest of the team. So they're about excellence and success across the board. So they were going to win whoever they were put in front of. However, you know, in the year they made the finals before, they had to overcome the disappointment of losing to the Thunder. The year before that, you know, when Perk and Ibaka went nuts making jumpers everywhere. The next year, of course, you know, the heartbreak with the Ray Allen 3 from the corner. So this year, when they really put them to the sword, it was just, you know, they say you've got to have lost or had some heartbreak to learn how to climb the mountain again. And I think with that young group, or that mix of a group they had with some younger guys, that helped them push through.
Well, we know, most people say it's easier to win a title than to retain it. So because the pressure will be all on the Spurs this season, how do you think they'll cope with the pressure? But then again, they've got quite a few experienced heads in the team, especially like people like Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Boris Diaw. They've all been around for quite some time. But how do you think they'll cope with the pressure overall?
It's probably a bit unusual for the Spurs. They're used to being overlooked in some ways, like, oh, they're the Spurs, they'll be thereabouts, but they're never the trendy or sexy pick to be the champion. So whilst they're always up there and people always know they're going to be tough, it's the first time that people are directly and outrightly saying, you know what, fine, they're the favourites, we'll finally say it out loud, they're not worrying about Miami, yeah, Cleveland's up there. So it'll be a little bit different for them, but like I say, I think, you know, partly by being a small market team, but largely through the culture they've got, they're insulated from those kinds of influences. Even the young guys they bring in who had great success, like Kawhi Leonard, I mean, that could normally go to the head of some people, but he's the kind of guy, they asked him after the championship, what are you going to do? And he's like, well, go home. You know, like these guys, they don't get carried away. They're the ultimate professionals.
Okay, and you talked about some of the younger guys. Spurs signed a 21-year-old, Carl Anderson, as their first-round draft pick. So what do you know of him and how do you think he'll fare?
Yeah, look, Anderson's come out of UCLA, and at the time he was drafted, it was a big surprise. You've got a lot of people wouldn't have had him anywhere near that position had there been other teams drafting. You know, had it been the Pistons or the Bucks, it wouldn't have made sense. But straight away, all the draft analysts were like, oh, of course the Spurs drafted him. You know, on the one hand, he's got this reputation for being laconic and a bit slow. I mean, his nickname on the team is Slow-Mo. But he's kind of a ready-made replacement for Boris Diaw in some ways. He's smart, he's a willing passer, he can play multiple positions, he's a good shooter, and he's just going to learn more. Now, the thing we have to remember, though, is this is the Spurs, and whilst it's not a written rule, rookies generally don't play on the Spurs. Even Parker, when he was great in his rookie year, got benched to Speedy Claxton in the playoffs, so he's going to take his time to learn. Then again, you know, Kawhi Leonard's got the eye infection at the moment. Anderson's got to play in the preseason. He's averaging almost 12 points a game, so he's getting that look. He's giving Pop a chance to see him, but I wouldn't expect a lot from him in the first half.
Okay, and let's move on to another Spurs fan, Huan Song. Apart from Anderson, San Antonio will be heading into this new campaign with largely the same roster as the last. They didn't add many players. But do you think that will work in their favour, having the same roster, or should they have tried to freshen their team up?
I think when you look at the Spurs organization, they function on continuity of a roster, and as well as a formation and a very team-oriented gameplay. So having the same roster actually helps them a lot because everybody knows their roles. There's no new guy that tries and come in and try and learn the ropes or something. Only the rookie, which, as emphasized by Ben, is not going to get much playing time anyway. So this new roster will actually help them a lot in their quest for a two-peat.
I see. And well, of course, although they didn't add to the playing staff, they added to the backroom staff. Some say that might actually be more important because there were a few notable additions, in particular Ettore Messina and former WNBA star Becky Hammond. Let's touch on Messina's appointment first. What do you know of him? What will he offer to the team?
Well, as we know, Messina is one of the greatest EuroLeague coaches of all time. I think 4 EuroLeague championships and one of the Hall of Famers for the coaching in EuroLeague. So I think what he will add to Spurs is that his philosophy of coaching is he focuses on ball movement and floor spacing. And that is precisely what Spurs need in their quest for a second championship in a row, because I think right now the team is really solid, but they only need some adjustments in their formation and their rotation of players. So I think he comes in, he gives that extra edge, and that will really help them to boost their whole gameplay for this year.
And then there's also Becky Hammond, the first full-time female assistant in the league. What do you think of her appointment, and do you think that would pave the way for more women to get involved in the men's game?
Oh, personally, I'm a big fan of Becky. She's 6-time All-Star, 15-time league player in the WNBA. She's got a very high basketball IQ as a point guard, and I think her playing style is very similar to like Tony Parker, which is very aggressive, very tenacious, going straight for the basket. So what she brings to the Spurs organization is the same sense of tenacity and just a very high caliber personnel to add into the already high caliber organization that Spurs has. She would definitely pave the way for more women to lead, to join management roles in the NBA in the future, definitely, yeah.
You're listening to SportsZone on 938 Live, and today we are previewing the upcoming NBA season, which is due to officially begin next Tuesday morning. And so far, we've heard from the two Spurs fans in the studio already. Let's move on now to Carl Jefferson's favorite team in the league, the Golden State Warriors. Now, first of all, Carl, what do you think of the new head coach, Steve Kerr? A good player, but with no real coaching experience. Are you happy with the appointment, or should they have appointed someone else with more experience?
I don't think the Warriors are too worried about Steve Kerr's coaching experience. He was a smart player, a great analyst for the game, and obviously has something to offer at the head coaching position because Phil Jackson was after him full on during the beginning parts of the preseason. So I feel that with that said, there's some things we probably don't know about Steve Kerr when it comes to his leadership abilities, and with a couple teams after him, he's choosing the Warriors for a couple reasons, and I think that he's definitely going to be the right coach for the team, and with his ability to mix and match the offenses that he's familiar with, I think that it's gonna mold well into the team, and with the smart, high caliber players that he has to work with, that they're gonna fit right into this new system. And I think it's gonna be very dynamic and exciting to watch, and just add to the Warriors' very, very lush play.
So you've watched the Warriors last season. What does Kerr needs to work on to improve, to help them improve? And do you think, having seen them play in the preseason, they've managed to do that?
You know, it's too bad. It's a pity that they didn't give Mark Jackson another shot for maybe another year or two, because it was kind of the team that he built. And Kerr's kind of lucky that he stepped in this position, because they're already a solid team. They're already looking to make the playoff run, maybe even get to the finals. You know, this year I think might be their breakthrough year, because the players are a year older. They were coming together last season quite well. I think this year they won't have a slow start. They're gonna have a great beginning and a strong end like they had last year. I think that it's just, I don't really think they need to do anything different. They just need to play more as a team, and with a different set in their offense, I think it's going to just make them that much harder to guard, and maybe have a couple other players step up. But again, that's just playing together and working in a system as one unit, which I think they showed well last year.
Do you see any potential young stars who will surprise this season from the Warriors? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they got they don't really have any new names to the team. They're just, again, the same team that we saw last year, but that just shows you how strong that the Warriors management is in the core offense that they have put together. And so I do think that they're expecting Bogut to step up a little bit more this year. From what I'm seeing with the offense, there's going to be a more focus point on the centers inside, and not so much the ball in Curry's hands. But I think that makes him more dangerous. You know, he had the ball in his hand he had the ball in his hand about 28% of the time, they're saying, and it's about the sixth longest player in the NBA too, so like behind Durant and LeBron James. These players all have the ball in their hand, and Curry is one of those players. But the thing is, like, now he's going to be coming off screens more. He's going to be that much more dangerous. And I watch highlights of this kid, and he's unstoppable with the ball in his hand and without the ball in his hand. So it'll just be interesting to see how he just plays off of this new offense and just gets open and hits shots.
Awesome stuff. And okay, let's hear from our final guest in the studio, Los Angeles Lakers fan Kelvin Goh. Well, the Lakers had a rather terrible season last year, missing the playoffs for the first time since 2005. Do you think that was just a one-off, or was it the start of the end of their domination?
Unfortunately, I think it's going to be pretty ugly this year. We already lost Steve Nash to the season just 2 days ago. Nick Young is coming off from wrist surgery, so he's going to be out for at least the first 3 weeks. We have Kobe Bryant, though. He's pretty good, being the 40th best player in the NBA. I think he can at least carry the team, but I think it's important that Laker fans have to know that for this season, we'll be lucky to scratch the 8th seed, I think.
Well, you're a sports physiotherapist, and we all know about Kobe Bryant's chronic injuries over the past few seasons. After all his injuries, do you think he'll ever be able to reach the heights he did before?
I don't think anybody can be the same after Achilles and then after knee injuries. But if anybody can do it, Kobe can do it. But I think he needs to change his game a bit more. This year, I think Byron Scott's going to play more in the post and in the pinch post. I think it's better for him if he doesn't handle the ball that much. He doesn't have to do so much. And he needs to be a bit more efficient, I think.
Okay, so realistically speaking, Kelvin, what are your expectations for the Lakers this season?
I'm just hoping that Kobe can play one full season. That's the first thing we hope for. And everybody else, of course. But I think it's important that we develop the 2 draft picks that we have, Jordan Clarkson, Julius Randle. I think it'll be important that they can become real starters on the team. But in the Western Conference, we'll be lucky to scratch the 8th seed if we had everybody on board. But you never know. You got Kobe Bryant. He makes shots. You know, if they're close at end of games, at least he'll be there.
That's if he remains fit. Okay, one song. In the interest of the many Jeremy Lin fans that we have here in Singapore, how do you think he'll do in the Lakers?
I think Jeremy has set the table for a good season ahead. He has set his expectations really low. He's saying that, you know, Linsanity is never going to happen again, which we obviously know why it's not going to happen again. But because right now he is definitely going to be the starting point guard. Unfortunately, for Nash, to miss the season, but more playing time, with a free roster and a whole team for him to run, I think you will see his individual numbers go up. But I'm not sure who is going to exactly give him the pick and roll, because he's strictly a pick and roll point guard, right? He runs multiple picks, and then after he goes straight to the basket, and he's good off the shot. But if Julius Randle can give him that Karl Malone kind of screens, I think he'll see good numbers this year. It'll be good for him there.
Okay, and staying in Los Angeles, we'll go on to the Los Angeles Clippers because they were involved in the headlines during the off-season. Former Microsoft CEO Steve Ballmer taking over ownership of the club from Donald Sterling. The less said about Sterling, the better. So Ben, what kind of impact do you think Ballmer will have on the Clippers, especially on their coach Doc Rivers?
Well, apart from the fact that he's made all the players ditch their iPads and iPhones for Nokia phones and Surfaces and all that kind of stuff, I think it's really kind of addition by subtraction. Even if Ballmer doesn't do anything active, just the removal of that pole that the Sterling saga was throwing over the whole club will change everything. You saw, guys like... we had the protest mid-court during the playoffs. You had Doc Rivers coming out, in a really tough position. What we're going to see now is a team that's a lot more unified. They've got a couple of new players coming to the team. We saw Chris Douglas-Roberts wearing short shorts, so that's a great thing for the new year. There's great opportunities for this team to push forward, and they've got its chance to own LA. They've got great players like Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, and him, dunking away for the rest of the time. Chris Paul running the show. They're a fantastic team, high-profile coach. It's their chance to take the town.
Okay, and moving on to the state of Oklahoma. There's only one person to start with when talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder, and that's last season MVP Kevin Durant, out at least till the new year. So how will his absence affect OKC, Kelvin?
You can't replace, obviously, Durant's numbers, and the only thing is he handles the ball a lot, as Kyle has already mentioned. But at least they still have Russell Westbrook, and he can finish games for them. But Serge Ibaka has to step up, Reggie Jackson has to step up, and Jeremy Lamb is also pretty good. So I think they will definitely miss him. But if they can stay afloat and wait for him to get back, they'll be fine.
And Wan Song, who do you think will be the man to step up in Durant's absence? I mean, Calvin mentioned Russell Westbrook. Do you think that's true?
Well, obviously right now the show goes to Westbrook, but Serge Ibaka is going to be lurking on the baseline, man. So you better watch out for his baseline 2-pointers, 3-point shots, and he's coming out of nowhere to blocking your shots. I think Ibaka should see his numbers go up because he obviously has to step up to be the number 2 scorer, right? And I think Ibaka is the man.
Okay, and just before we go for the news headlines, let's touch a bit on the Singapore Slingers, Carl. The Slingers have qualified for the playoffs for the first time in 3 years. So what or who has been the key driving force for them this year?
I think the local players have stepped up tremendously this year. Wei Long's been playing significant, and some of the other guys coming off the bench have added some great minutes to the team. Russell Lowe was doing his thing inside, and being a rookie, I think he came in and played quite well. Obviously, we had to go through a lot of adversity with injuries. I missed Larry. Larry came also rookie and started and hit big shots in big games, and before he got injured, so now he's trying to find his way back to shooting form. But I think overall, it wasn't any one particular thing that made the Slingers a standout team, an exciting team to watch this year. But the local guys definitely were the consistent force in pushing through and getting a lot of these crucial wins, especially when I was on the court. Sometimes I was the only import player. And it just shows that the guys have been putting in a lot of work during the season and even in the off season to get to this point, because the management has pretty much put in different players in the import position, and they've still been able to win. So it's not like they've been dependent on any one particular import player like a lot of other teams, but more so it's been the local guys really stepping forward and helping the team reach the playoffs this year.
Thanks, Carl, and all the best to the Slingers in the playoffs. And that's
Thank
part
you.
one of Sports Zone. Coming up after the news headlines, we'll preview the teams from the Eastern Conference. It's also your chance to call and win the PS4 copy of the NBA 2K15 plus tickets to catch Yen Rush and the rest of Liverpool FC legends live in Singapore next month. And we'll also hear from the latest gaming-related event which is happening in Singapore as we speak. So stay tuned to more of Sports Zone right here on 938 Live.
Hey Singapore, this is former Liverpool and Real Madrid winger Steve McManaman. You're locked onto Sports Zone on 938 Live.
Welcome back to part 2 of Sports Zone. I'm Noah Tan, and today we are counting down to the start of the new NBA basketball season. And before we continue any further, I'd like you to know that this weekend marks the debut of the very first gaming-related or esports-inspired event in Singapore in more than 6 years. The 2-day ticketed event is called Game Start and is taking place on level 4 of the Suntec City Convention Centre. And just before the start of this Sports Zone show, I spoke to Elisha Lee, who's the director of this event, and I first asked her what's to be expected when the doors open to the public at 12 p.m.
Well, when doors open, at the moment we've got maybe about 300 people queuing outside. So we are expecting quite a big rush of crowd of people to come in and enjoy the event. We have, a ton of games for you to try. There's retro gaming, there's tournaments, we have producer sessions for people who are interested in gaming and specific games. So there's a ton of stuff that people will be able to experience come 12 o'clock today.
Tell us some of the renowned international guests who will be part of your event today.
We're very lucky. We have some producers from Japan. For example, we have Ono Yoshinori and Ayano who will be coming to actually present something special on Ultra Street Fighter 4, new Omega mode that was actually only released at Tokyo Game Show in September. We also have Yosuke Futami, who is the producer for Sword Art Online. And we also have producers for Bloodborne, for Freedom Wars, especially, and also for a lot of local studios here. And we have international cosplayers from Australia and Thailand who will be joining us as well.
Now you mentioned cosplayers, and I understand that you have a cosplay contest as well. Could you shed some light on that?
So it's called the Game On Game Start Cosplay Competition, where it's game themed. So participants have to come in a game character costume, and it's part of a partnership that we have with Neo Tokyo Project, which is a local cosplay group, and sponsored by Armageddon. So basically, these cosplayers, they come, they show off their awesome costume making skills, and they extend to win really great prizes.
And of more than the 50 games which GameStart will be showcasing, which are the major ones we should be looking out for?
I think the highlight would be all the previews, basically, of all the games that are not even released yet, so people will get to try them for the very first time here. So things like Bloodborne, Evolve, Blizzard is showing their new World of Warcraft expansion, Warlords of Draenor. We have Dead Island 2, Dragon Ball Xenoverse, The Order 1886, just tons of stuff. So, people should come and try it for themselves.
Now, one of the games is also the NBA 2K15, which is what we are offering today in our phone-in contest, as in 2 copies of this latest NBA game for the PS4 gaming console. What's your opinion of NBA 2K15, which was launched just 2 weeks ago?
I think it's a great game. NBA has been continuously improving. Like, the graphics now are really awesome, and I think this year what's most exciting is the facial recognition part of it, where you can actually, scan your face and put yourself in the game, which I think is pretty cool.
Right, on that note, thanks very much for joining us, Alicia, and best of success with the first ever Game Start event, which is taking place at the Suntec City Convention Centre this weekend. And as you've heard, we are giving away 2 copies of NBA 2K15 for the PS4 console. In addition to the details mentioned by Alicia, you can also check out www.2k.com for more on the video game. Today's 2 winners will also take home tickets to this big party organised by Carlsberg Beer. This is on the 8th of November at the Cube in Asia Square on Saturday night. It's the live screening of Liverpool vs Chelsea, and you'll be there together with other football fans and enjoying the hospitality from our friends at Carlsberg Singapore. Plus, a week later on November 15th at the Jalan Besar Stadium is Fandi Ahmad and V Sundramoorthy together with 18 other former Singapore Lions taking on a team of Liverpool FC legends led by Yen Rush and Robbie Fowler. So some really great prizes for you to win today. And a reminder, those of you who have won prizes on SportsZone since the 20th of September, which is about a month before, you cannot take part today. Remember, the 20th of September, you cannot take part today if you've won prizes since then. Alright then, the contest question for today is, please listen up carefully, who is the player on the cover of the NBA 2K15 video game? Tell me the name of the player who's featured on the cover of the NBA 2K15 video game. The only hint I can give you is, he plays for the OKC Thunder franchise. Call now 669-11938, that's 669-11938. The prizes today are courtesy of Carlsberg Beer and 2K Games. Okay, back to our preview of the upcoming NBA season. If you missed the first part of the show, well, I'm joined in the studio today by Singapore Slinger star Carl Jeffers, San Antonio Spurs fans Ben Adams and Huan Song, as well as sports physiotherapist and LA Lakers supporter Kelvin Goh. We talked about the key teams in the Western Conference during the first half of the show, so it's time now to take a look at the teams from the Eastern Conference. And of course, the best place for us to start would be on LeBron James' return to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Let's have your opinion on this, Kelvin. I don't think anyone ever doubted the King would rejoin the Cavaliers again at some point, but was this the right time for him to do so?
As hated as he was when he left Cleveland, when people burned his jerseys, I think he is more well-loved now than ever before. So it was the most brilliant move he could make to come back to Cleveland, I think. He's already had his 2 championships. He's got what he needed. Now he just has to come back and make the city proud. I think it's a very good team to come back to. I mean, they picked 3 of the last first-round picks for the last 4 years, and they had to trade for Kevin Love, but that's an excellent move. Kyrie Irving just played really well in Team USA, so I think it's going to be a really exciting season for them.
And Ben, how do you think LeBron will fit into this team, or should the team be molded into LeBron's image? Suit LeBron's style of play?
I mean, I think that really reminds me of the question, where does a 500-pound gorilla sit? Wherever he wants, right? So you don't take the best player in the world and then say, okay, man, you've got to fit in with what we're doing. And let's be honest, the Cavs were nowhere last season, absolutely nowhere. And they've got new players. I mean, K-Love and these guys have come in. They've brought in a bunch of veteran players like Mike Miller and Ray Allen. So this is LeBron's team without a question. It's his town. I don't know what all the Miami fanboys are going to do with their jerseys and white hats and all the cool stuff that they were wearing before, but I'm sure they've already spent all their money on Cleveland gear, so we'll get to see a fair bit of that around town and make everyone proud.
All right, Carl, on to you. Do you think it'll be beneficial for young, precocious talents like Dion Waiters and Kyrie Irving to have someone as immense as LeBron in the team?
Yeah, absolutely. LeBron's a great player. I mean, anybody you play him with, he's gonna fit in and work as a great asset to his teammates. You know, he brings leadership, he brings great skill, and he brings all the defensive attention to him. So players like, you know, Irving and Waiters, Love, you know, they're gonna definitely enjoy his presence working with him, because instead of the focus being on them, it's going to be on LeBron, and LeBron James will break down any defense. He'll attack you anywhere on the court. He'll get to the rim, and then at the same time, he's not a very selfish player, and will find you and hit you and get you the ball where you need it. And he's a very smart player that he knows where you're going to be before you might even know where you're going to be, and he's going to put the ball where you want it to be, and you're going to score. And so I think he's gonna be comfortable playing back at home. He's gonna be excited. It's gonna be great. He's gonna be getting the fans rowdy and ready, and it's gonna be an exciting team to watch this season. Absolutely.
Okay, one song away from LeBron. We've spoken about Kevin Love. So, how do you think he'll fit into his new team?
I think individually he'll definitely shine, because on a team with no other superstar except for maybe Ricky Rubio, he was averaging 28 and 13. So when he comes to Cleveland and there's 2 other big names there to draw the attention, right, he's going to get all the free space he needs. And being one of the best, if not the best, 3-point shooting big man or stretch 4 in the league right now, I think he's going to be, individually, he's going to be off the charts. But he's not going to be able to he's not going to be able to work on his weaknesses, which is his defense, right? I think he's a good defensive rebounder, but he's not there defensively yet, and that's where Cleveland is lacking. So you probably see the same old Kevin Love as he was last season.
And then I suppose that also raises the question for someone like Kyle as a Warriors fan. You know, K-Love had a chance to go to the Warriors as well. They could have traded Klay Thompson to get him. They would have had to give up David Lee as well.
Right.
Do you think the Warriors did the right thing in not giving up those two guys to get an all-star like that, seeing what Cleveland's been able to build?
I mean, I think they just wanted to keep the team together. They're confident in who they had, and I believe that they weighed all their options, but at the end of the day, management said, these are our guys. We're gonna stick with them. We believe in them. We got them a new coach, and I think this is what they need. They didn't need a new addition in Kevin Love, even though he would have been great. He's gonna be great to any team, but he fits in better with Cavaliers, who are looking to restructure completely and build an offense around him and another star player like LeBron James, as you don't need to really do that with the Warriors when you had Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, you had David Lee, and I think the loyalty factor set in also with the players at the in the Warriors franchise and organization.
But then I suppose another question would be, is K-Love going to turn into what Chris Bosh became, which is a standstill jump shooter from mid-range, where in Toronto he was the man in the post getting 25 points a game. In Miami he was getting 13 points a game and hanging out watching the other guys score. How is K-Love's game going to change, do you think, in Cleveland?
I think if it was any other coach other than David Blatt, he wouldn't have changed. But I think David Blatt's free-flowing, ball movement, ball spacing kind of offense, he has to move. And LeBron will see that he moves, because LeBron's going to get to places where Kevin Love usually maybe is more comfortable with, down the post, because LeBron's going to take to the post, right? So because of a new superstar, he's going to be forced to move. And he won't become the Chris Bosh that we saw in Miami. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go around the table now. Would you all consider the Cavaliers genuine title contenders this season with LeBron and Love as well? Let's start with you, maybe Kelvin.
I won't say that they might win this year, but the thing is, there's only one team that's only won in its first year together. That will be the Boston Celtics, and they were all veterans. So there's a lot of new players on the team. So I won't count them in yet, because I kind of like the Chicago Bulls this year.
Huan Song, you seem to agree with Kelvin.
I think in terms of a whole team and what a team represents, Chicago Bulls is definitely right there, where they are more Spurs-like. They have a system, they have the players, and they know what to do. And they have Gasol, right, who's like a team player more. I think they're better than Cleveland at this point in time. Yeah.
So where do you foresee Cleveland finishing? Maybe the playoffs?
They will definitely make it to the conference finals, but I think Bulls in 6.
I see. Carl?
Yeah, I mean, the East, again, is not very strong this year. Last year, they're quite woeful. I mean, this year, a couple teams had beefed up and got better. But overall, I think the Cavaliers will end first in the league. I mean, they have great players, and I do believe that they're hungry enough, and LeBron James wants to win the championship for his hometown, in the home state. He wants to be that guy. He wants to bring the love back, and I do think that they're going to be the team to watch in the East. If not, definitely in the final is going to be the main team to beat after. As we have seen or heard here, the Spurs are going to be playing against in the West.
You know it. All right, Ben. And so, what do you think of the Cleveland Cavaliers? Do you think they'll be title contenders? Will they take the title away from Spurs?
No, they won't take it away from the Spurs. Contenders is an easy word to throw around. I mean, even the Wizards could be, with the addition of Pierce, assuming that those guys don't all go crazy, as often happens with the Wizards players. But even when the Heat came together, they didn't win it in the first year. You've got a lot to learn. The question kind of is, what did LeBron learn from that experience that can help this team gel more quickly? I think they'll be a regular season juggernaut. They'll go out, there'll be dunks everywhere, big threes, they'll win lots of games by big margins. As the guys have already alluded to, though, the playoffs is a different kind of game. The other challenge that they're going to have in front of them is that their two other stars, quote-unquote, Kevin Love, who's a bona fide all-star, and Kyrie Irving, who's getting there, they've never made the playoffs. So those guys don't have experience to fall back on. Only LeBron does. Yes, they'll have the veterans coming off the bench, but if they're digging deep and going to big minutes for Ray Allen and Mike Miller in the playoffs, they're going to be in a bit of trouble. Then again, Derek Rose's knee might explode again. And,
Okay, and just before we continue any further, we have our 2 winners to our phone-in contest. I asked you earlier, who is the player on the cover of the NBA 2K15 video game? The answer is, of course, Kevin Durant of the Oklahoma City Thunder team. And congratulations to Justin Chua and Teo Chun Hee. You've each won for yourselves a copy of the latest NBA 2K15 video games for the PS4 console. You've also won tickets to an upcoming Carlsberg Live EPL match screening event and VIP tickets to catch Singapore's ex-internationals versus the Legends of Liverpool FC 2 weeks from now. The prizes today are courtesy of Carlsberg Beer and 2K Games, and please go online to 2k.com for more information about the latest NBA video game. Now on that note, we'll be going for a quick traffic update, but when we come back, we'll continue our discussion about the upcoming NBA basketball season. Time now for Traffic Watch.
Hi Singapore, this is former Liverpool goalkeeper Bruce Grobler. For all your football news, catch the guys on SportsZone, only on 938 Live.
Welcome back to the final stretch of SportsZone as we talk all things NBA basketball today with 4 fans in the studio. So let's not waste any time and get right back into our chat as we head to the state of Miami and the Heat. So maybe Ben, we'll start with you. How important was it for the Heat that they managed to retain the services of Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh for this season, especially following the departure of LeBron James?
if they hadn't kept those guys, then they're in complete rebuild mode. It would be a disaster. They'd win about 3 games. What was lucky for them was that they managed to, when they were still negotiating the LeBron deal, they were able to get Wade on a cheaper, shorter term deal. I mean, it's still a lot of money for a guy that only played 54 games last season or whatever it was, but at least he's only costing them that smaller amount. Gives Bosh a chance to shine. They got Luol Deng across from the Bulls, so they're not going to completely suck, but they're not going to be great.
Okay, and so Kelvin, who are you expecting will step up for the team now that LeBron is gone?
I think they'll win at least 4 games since they have Wade and Chris Bosh. But I mean, during the preseason, you can see Dwayne Wade's been trying to score more, and the only way they're going to get a double team is basically just having Bosh in the post. So he has to play big if he wants his shooters. Luol Deng, and they still have a lot of shooters from before. So he needs to set up in the post well and create a double team for them to score.
And okay, you guys mentioned Luol Deng. He's no LeBron James for sure, but do you think he can still do a decent job for them? What do you think, Carl?
Luol Deng's like a mini LeBron. He can do everything on the court, offensively and defensively. I do think his defensive presence is a very strong one. They say he's one of the best wing defenders. So, I mean, he's a good player. He fits in well, but he's not gonna fill the void that LeBron James has left the team. But I mean, he's strong enough. He's good enough, and he works hard enough that I think he'll definitely help them win those 4 games that we're talking about them winning.
Okay, and let's head over to the city of Chicago and the Chicago Bulls. You all mentioned that they were one of the title contenders. You think they have a very strong team. One song, the Bulls, they've acquired Paul Gasol, Nikola Mirotic. What do you think? Who do you think will be the key for them this season?
Well, unfortunately for Derrick Rose's departure, Noah is the heart and soul of Chicago right now. But the key is really Gasol's play, because right now I think the Bulls have moved from a sort of guard strong to a post strong kind of team. So Gasol's play is going to be very big, especially in the playoffs, if he can cover for the mistakes of the wing players. And we all know that he's a great facilitator as well, like his brother Mark. So Gasol's play will have to, it'll be the determinant for Bulls. Yeah.
Okay, and Derrick Rose is of course one of the main men, if not the main man for the Bulls. He has had horrendous luck with injuries over the past 2.5 seasons or so. Now, Carl, as a professional player, you're suffering a damaged ankle now as we speak. I'm sure you can empathize how hard it must be for him to sit out injured. So how would you advise Rose to get over this injury psychologically if you were in issue? How would you do it?
I would just listen to my physios. He probably is working. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely it's tough to go through a devastating injury as such as one where you are limited to walk. Like you said, I'm sustaining one, so I know exactly how it feels to watch your team play, to not be there out there with them, and to just be very limited in a lot of things. So psychologically, it takes a lot of mental toughness to get over such a thing, and then even to put your weight back onto your foot is a step that is kind of scary because you don't know how it's going to feel. You don't want sharp pains to come at you, but nonetheless, you just have to work through it and listen to the advice around you. And I'm sure with Derek Rose, he has a great supporting network to help him through this. And it is too bad to see him go down because he was such a athletic and exciting player. How he just floated around in the lane and hit shots that I don't know if he'll ever get back to that, just because. It's a bit of a challenge to get back to that level once you've already. It's kind of like putting a damaged glass back together. It just will never be the same. There'll always be a crack or something you'll see. But I mean, nonetheless, he'll still be a great player.
So, Kelvin, do you have something to say?
He's had 2 seasons to rest, and he's young. And usually for ACLs, they rehab pretty well. So the only chance for them to re-rupture usually is when they're fatigued. So they have a pretty deep team. Thibodeau doesn't have to play him very much in the early part of the season. So once he gets his legs back, I think he's going to be absolutely explosive because he looks great in the preseason right now.
So you're saying that despite all his history of injuries, Derek Rose will be able to live up to his potential and that there wouldn't be any real damage to his physique?
I think he looks physically fit right now. And the chances of him tearing his ACL is almost just as high as anybody else on the court. So in terms of that, he should be fine. It's just a matter of if they can limit his minutes and just play him when he needs to, and then once he feels confident and as the season goes by, he'll know. As long as he's not tired, usually the chance of re-rupturing is quite low.
Okay, and let's quickly turn our attentions to the Indiana Pacers. Huan Song, the Pacers will likely be without the injured Paul George for the entire season. How big of a loss will that be for them?
I think losing Paul George is like the Lakers in the 90s, in the 80s losing Magic. It's like Celtics in their prime losing Larry. So is that big of an impact? Because Paul George is the closest to LeBron as a player, as anybody in the league. Losing him would mean losing a leader, losing a top 5 scorer, rebounder. I think the Pacers will struggle without him. It will depend on Chris Copeland's rise, and hopefully Roy Hibbert will wake up from his slumber and really just play, man. Yeah.
Okay, and finally, okay, let's get your predictions for the season. Who do you think will win the title next June?
Warriors.
Spurs. Warriors. Well, Spurs.
Warriors.
I'm sure the Spurs fans will say.
Fourth place?
What do you think, Kelvin? LA Lakers? No way, right?
The Lakers will be close. Maybe
close to the bottom.
close to the lottery. But I think the Bulls actually have a really good chance. I think the Warriors have a chance. But I'm sorry for the Spurs fans. You guys need to know they don't win back-to-back championships. So the Spurs are not going to win this year.
That's good to know.
Do you agree, right? Or do you think the Spurs will be able to retain the title?
I think statistically saying they sadly haven't been able to do it. I'm still waiting for the rise of Chris Paul, and hopefully he can, along with Blake Griffin, right, bring them to a championship, the first championship, right? Yeah.
You shouldn't hope for that at all.
Yeah. Blake Griffin has a jumper now, so watch out.
Yeah, watch out.
Yeah. My man Spencer Hall is shooting threes as a center.
Any surprise packages you think will emerge from this season? That will any team that will suddenly just jump up and
I think the Warriors might be a surprise. Actually,
there's that new team out there, like the Hornets. So we'll see how they adjust into.
I think
the
maybe
league
even Dallas.
Yeah. They got a strong core building around Dirk now. They're fun
Chandler
to watch.
Parsons, yeah.
I think the Wiz could take a step up with the addition of Paul Pierce. We don't know if he's got anything left, but. There are a lot of young dudes, and they've got a lot of ex-injured players who had a great year last year. So we'll see if they can pull it together with that extra veteran experience.
Excellent stuff. Well, that's all the time we have for you for Sports Zone today. A big thank you to our guest, Carl Jeffers of the Singapore Slingers. Again, good luck with the Slingers.
Playoffs next week, the 31st, 8 p.m. And also have a look out for those Singapore Supras and the SBL League.
You know it.
Go Slingers.
All right, and San Antonio Spurs fans Ben Adams and Teo Huan Song, as well as LA Lakers supporter Kelvin Goh. And keep it tuned to 938 Live for all of your NBA basketball news and results during the weekdays. So till the next time, I'm Noah Tan. Take care and bye for now.